Hey, Peter.
Yes.
Today we're listening to an album that some people think is one of the great works of art of the 20th century. Other people think isn't even the greatest work of art for this artist in this year.
Whoa.
Yeah. We, of course, are listening to John Coltrane's, in my opinion, masterpiece, A Love Supreme. I'm Adam Menace.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
And this is a very special day for us.
It really is a very special day. We love to listen to the greatest albums of all time here at the You'll Hear It podcast. If you want to go on a deeper dive of anything we're talking about here, you can always go to openstudiojazz.com and check that out.
Yes.
Peter, it's Love Supreme Day. We've been toying with this, flirting with this album for years.
Yes.
We've never really covered it.
No.
And I'm stoked because this is one of my all-time favorite records. Peter, full disclosure for me, and I know you kind of know this already, but there was a period in my 20s. All right, picture this. Young Adam in his 20s.
Yes.
Doesn't really get haircuts. You know what I mean? He smokes a lot. Smokes a lot of Marlboro Reds. He's just
This was before we knew that was not safe or healthy, right?
No, we fully
is that
knew.
after?
We
Okay,
fully
okay,
knew.
got it.
We fully didn't care though. I'm just backing. I'm what is backing? I'm shooting darts left and right.
Yeah.
I would wake up every morning for about almost a year and listen to Love Supreme and smoke Marlboro Reds and look out my window.
All the way through?
All the way through, both
Yeah.
sides. I would have a cup of coffee. I would listen to side one, smoke a cigarette, maybe two, flip it over, get more coffee, smoke another cigarette, maybe three, listen to side two.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of your musical health, what it did to elevate it, it probably canceled out those cigarettes because I mean, to listen to this album all the way through, which I know a lot of people do, and this is definitely one of those records that's rewarded from side one and then the break, and then you come to side two. I mean, it's a masterpiece, it's a from beginning to end, it's a statement. It was constructed in that way. It comes across in that way, and so I mean, in terms of like elevating your life and your health, I think it might have canceled out. I mean, we're not recommending the youngins out there in their 20s to go pick up cigarette smoking and listen to
No, it's not good
but you
for
can
your
do
heart
worse.
health. It wasn't good for my heart health. Yeah, and we're going to do our classic scorecard for what makes this album great,
Yes.
which feels a little weird because, you know, this was Coltrane's love letter to God.
Yeah.
And so it feels a little cheap to score it, but we're going to work through that.
Right.
And we're going to realize that this
Well,
piece
we're
of
not
paper here that we're scoring, it means nothing.
No, and one of the categories is not spirituality, because obviously this would be off the charts.
Well, maybe
on
it
that.
should be.
Maybe it should be. No, we're going to go, just to review real quick, our 10 categories, because we have an updated one.
We do. We're ditching one for another.
So number 1 is playing. Number 2 is vibe.
Yeah.
Number 3 is compositions. 4, sound. 5, sequence.
Okay.
6, cover art. 7, title. 8, lore.
Yeah.
And 9, what was formerly known as the Snobometer / Aunt Linda is now the Stank Face O-meter. Big shout out to one of our listeners, regular listeners that recommended this. And I think it makes sense. Like how much.
So what does that
stank
mean,
face?
stank face o-meter? Just how much stank face it gets? Isn't this
Exactly.
just, do you like this album?
Oh, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's that. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Well, but it's also like how much of a personal impact I think it has on you. And I want to talk a little bit about what makes an album great, what that means as well, because that can mean like, I think most people think outside of the jazz and maybe classical world. Oh, I should say number 10, is it better than KOB? Which is important.
That's going to be interesting. That's going to be
The title
interesting.
of this is this better than KOB, this album? And this
Yeah.
is something that has been debated before, and I'm interested to see what we come up with.
And for that category, we pitch KOB as a 9 because we want things to be better than KOB because we think things could be.
Yeah.
And we've rated things better than KOB. I have.
But think about it, like when we say a great album, most people would say what makes an album great. They would be like, the greatest album of all time, Thriller. They might throw that out there, whether be
Interesting.
because, well, I mean, no, if you were to grab 10 people off the street, look, there's a guy right there. We could have grabbed him.
What do you think of Thriller?
No, if you say, what's the greatest album of all time, what would come up? Now I'm not talking about jazz or whatever.
I think Songs in the Key of Life for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think one of those early Bob Dylan records, maybe Blood on the Tracks might come up for
We're
people.
talking about very, very high selling records, chart toppers, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm saying that's what most people I think would be like. A great album is one that's sold a lot. What's a great cereal? Let's go to Poster Kellogg's. Let's not go to some obscure, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's this assumption within jazz that
the Lonely Poets Society?
Exactly, a little bit like a bespoke situation. But I do think it's important for us to at least delineate between the impact that these albums make on musicians, maybe versus the general public, the GP, as we say.
Yeah. Well, speaking of impact, do you remember, just story time, do you remember the first time you heard Love Supreme? Like, because this to me was kind of enigmatic when I first heard it.
Yes.
Like, I didn't really understand what was happening
I was
musically.
scared of this album.
It was daunting.
Yeah.
Because it is like, how are they doing that? Especially, I think, for us pianists, particularly like McCoy Tyner. Like, what is McCoy doing?
Yeah.
Why can a human being do that? Like, what is happening here? And how can I do that? That was my first questions. And I had no pathway for that. I was like, I mean, I'll just try to hear it and try to figure it out. But man, it felt like a mountain to climb.
Yeah, for sure. And I think an interesting thing is to think about like the impact that it makes on a musician.
Yeah.
So a pianist that's thinking, oh my gosh, McCoy Tyner, how is he interacting? Elvin Jones, all these kind of things, versus a listener where it's just a visceral kind of rain shower on top of you of the music. And I wonder if this album has that same kind of impact, i.e., what makes it great, on people listening, like A Kind of Blue.
Yeah.
Whereas for musicians, that might be a little bit different. And it's not a right or wrong, but like, which one is more important?
Yeah.
Which makes an album greater? If somebody
it's
who
very
really
personal, it's what impacts you.
Yeah. But it's like, what does somebody that is a former or current professional basketball player who says like, actually, the greatest player ever was not Michael Jordan. He's the most popular. And
Dominique Wilkins?
Well, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's some of the taller and shortest. You're going there. But anyway, this is just a little fodder for us as we move forward. Let's get into listening to some of this.
Yeah, you know what? Another one weird with
Dirtiest
for
player
me
of all
is
time.
I don't think this happens like this anymore. But because I grew up in the CD era of the '90s, the first John Coltrane CD I had was Giant Steps.
You're such a CD baby.
I'm a CD baby. The first album I had from Train was Giant Steps, and I wore that one out, meaning that I got soda on it in my truck.
So you heard that before you heard Love Supreme.
I heard that one, and then I heard there's one with Train and Alice Coltrane live at the Village Vanguard that is like really out.
Yeah,
like 1967 or 8 or something.
Okay.
I forget what it's called, but it's not Interstellar Space, but it's close to that thing, right? And I was like, I was way too young.
Intrastellar Space.
Thank you. See, I'm not even intelligent enough to understand it. But that one I was like, okay, I honestly don't understand this, and I don't know if I like it. And then I came to before even this was Coltrane's Sound, which is another one of my all-time favorites.
Great record.
From John Coltrane. And then this, came later when I got it on vinyl when I was in my 20s. And again, I think because I'd spent so much time with Giant Steps and Coltrane Sound specifically, that this, and I should point out to Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane, and the Duke Ellington, John Coltrane. I listened to those a lot too before I'd even heard Love Supreme.
What about Blue Train?
And Blue Train. I'd heard Blue Train a lot. But this is the thing. And the kids are like, why didn't you just listen to Love Supreme? Because I didn't ever see it at the record store that I was at.
Right.
Like when I was a kid. I just didn't, either I didn't pay attention to it or I couldn't afford it because I had picked out the things that I thought I liked. And also it wasn't like now where it's like you can see what's the most popular and what's the most, and what has the most critical. Like if I wanted to look up what was the most critically acclaimed John Coltrane record, I would likely have to go to a library.
Yeah.
And look up that information or ask someone who knew. And I just, for whatever reason, that didn't happen.
What a crazy thing to think about how things have changed in terms of how we're exposed to hearing something and then being able to make a judgment if we like that or want to hear more of it. Like the first John Coltrane, I'd actually heard some John Coltrane because my dad had some records and there was something on that Smithsonian box set. I definitely heard it growing up some, but the first record where I was like, let me go check it out was Crescent.
Yep.
On the recommendation of Wynton Marsalis.
Nice.
He was just like, check out this record. I was like, oh. But thinking back on it, I would have never picked up that record because there was nothing.
There's standards on it.
There's no standards. Like that's such a big thing. And these
not
this
on this
is a little
either.
off-putting.
Yeah.
Like acknowledgement. And it's got like a religious overtone. So it's like, I'm not worthy.
I know. When you're like 18 years old and you're just trying to learn the songbook, right? You're trying to learn jazz standards and things you can play with other people. You're like, Pursuance. Nobody plays Pursuance. You know
But
what I mean?
nowadays, if you're coming up and you're listening to something that algorithmically Spotify or YouTube or whatever picks up on that you might like something like this, it will put it in there, and people aren't looking at like who's playing on it. It's hard to even find that the name of the album, and
These
then
damn
you hear
kids
it.
got it so good they don't even know how
Well,
good
I
they
don't
got
know.
it.
I mean, is it? Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's good and it's bad.
Look,
but-
I mean, we're doing it right now. We're telling them, go listen to this
know.
album.
So the other thing I was thinking about on this is it ended up kind of being a little bit of a demarcation point for me in John Coltrane. You're talking about to what I would have considered at the time like Interstellar Space and the later stuff, the scary John Coltrane stuff. This was like a line between the stuff that I knew. And I'd heard Coltrane, of course, play with Thelonious Monk. I think even before I'd heard like Crescent. So I'd heard early Coltrane. Coltrane sounds for sure.
Yeah.
Johnny Hartman. And then the classic quartet. Once I got into McCoy, I was like, I loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
But this was the beginning of like, oh boy, he's really taking it out. And I don't mean just a half step up. And so this was sort of like almost the end of that era and the beginning of the next era, kind of serving for both. And then of course, 1965, this was recorded in 1964. At the end of 64, but came out at the beginning
December
of
64, released January 65.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That's
What a
nuts.
turnaround for a
We
classic,
couldn't do
right?
that today, although we're going to try next episode.
That's right. That's right. But, 65, 66, 67, and he passed in 67 way too early, prematurely, was a huge output, but he went, now I don't want to say off the rails. He just went in another direction that's amazing too, but very different from this record and before.
Yeah, it's a shame he passed away so young. We could say that about so many of our favorite musicians because it would have been great to see where he would have gone.
Yeah.
As an older musician. Just speaking as someone who's now older than he was when he passed away by several years.
Yeah.
Like so much happens during this stage of life that I want to hear his commentary on. I mean, think about what we've gotten from people like, I don't know why it just came to mind, but like Pat Metheny's output later in life has been incredible. Like people like that, you know what I mean?
Ron Carter's
Herbie
output.
Hancock. Herbie Hancock, thank you.
Wayne Shorter.
Wayne Shorter's later output. Ahmad Jamal just kept making great records, and it would have been awesome to hear. But okay, let's listen to some music, Peter. Let's listen to part one, Acknowledgement, and again.
Will we be specifically listening for playing by any chance?
Yeah, so that's our first category. We'll try to consolidate playing, vibe, and maybe even compositions, but we'll see how we go here. Okay. So this is, of course, John Coltrane on the tenor saxophone, McCoy Tyner on the piano, Jimmy Garrison on the bass, and Elvin Jones on the drums. This is A Love Supreme, Part 1, Acknowledgement.
E. Open.
Yeah, Elvin Jones. I know, man.
Man, he's driving this bus, this whole record. Oh, wait, no, McCoy's driving the bus. Sorry. Man, bold and beautiful. It's the soundtrack to that great soap opera, The Bold and the Beautiful.
That would be so weird if this were the soundtrack to the.
But it is bold and beautiful. Woo! Are they burning out, would we say? Improvising over just one chord. One sound. Oh.
I mean, for me, the difference between this and another quote-unquote modal album is this is more... I mean, this feels African. Like, this has that vibe of... This is not of all of this place. You know what I mean? Like, it has that feeling that it just can't deny.
Yeah, I mean, to call it exploratory is obvious, but it's exploratory 100% committed. Like the way Train is improvising, it's like there's no self-awareness. There's just like commitment to the music, to where it's going to go, to continuing on. Integrity, of course, you know, but and very stripped down harmonically. I mean, it's one chord, but then melodically, the places that it takes it harmonically are like off the charts, you know. That's where the exploration's going, the rhythmic exploration. They're creating it as they play. I think this could have only been done in one session. A record.
I mean, it's completely, it's
like the way McCord brought that back.
It's
and
like I said,
centered it back
it's
on
just
that
on
F.
this other plane than something like Kind of Blue. Like it's coming from a different place.
Yeah.
It's not this like trying to be hip or French thing. You know what I mean? It's a little bit deeper. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I can see where we're going for number 10 for you. And from a piano standpoint, this is some of the best, most advanced comping that's ever been done.
Yeah.
Truly in the sense of the word of like accompanying. Like he's not chasing anything the Train is doing, but he's complementing beautifully the conversation with Elvin and Jimmy Garrison. I mean, like they're really committed to creating a piece of art in real time, you know? Yeah, it's way beyond Mulder playing. I think some people think it is because it's one chord. I mean, they play harmonic, modes.
And when you put it in the context of the time, 1964 when this was made, 65 when it was released, like
so tumultuous time in the U.S.
This is a cultural, like Train planting a cultural flag, which is a lot of people were doing around this time.
Yeah,
like.
And this,
which would have not been okay with a lot of people at this time.
Yeah. Obviously, that's the melody. You know, what are we, 5 minutes into the tune? The tune. Hey, let's play Acknowledgement. Ready? 1, 2. And I mean, Jimmy Garrison's job is potentially the most difficult, to hold things down, but to play things that are interesting for the overall collective composition. It's just masterful what he's doing. It kind of gets lost in there. Yeah. I mean, Coltrane went on that journey with that riff, with that melody, and now he's back here.
Nobody, by the way.
It's a mantra, right? It's a chant.
Yeah.
Oh.
As we'll hear.
Yeah.
Love supreme, 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 love supreme. Man, what a from that F to the E flat, and from where they started on
that's incredible. This time period, if you think about this time period, and I know it gets talked about a lot, but to have Elvin Jones and Tony Williams, young and making albums in this, 4 or 5 year stretch, one with Miles, one with Train. It's like such a gift to the world, man.
Okay, what
changed drumming? Both.
What Elvin just did dancing on that cymbal. He's still doing it, but what he even just that cymbal ringing out. Jimmy Garrison. That's a great bass sound. Woo. All right, can we pause for a second here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I love how this is on the LP going straight in. It's like, it's just one side.
Yeah.
And that's the way I first heard it anyway. So, I mean, it goes seamlessly in. But I just want to say, like, the way that it starts, like over this open E, like just fifths and fourths, you know.
And like a gong style.
Yeah, there's an actual gong.
I mean, it's a call to prayer.
It's a call to prayer. Yeah. And choosing E and all the things, you got the open E on the bass and just like what that sound and where it ends on that E flat. Like, this is very simple. Like I was saying, I feel like, I mean, I don't feel like it. You could feel it from the record every time you hear it. It's like it just happened, right? 1964. It's like, what is that? 60 years ago?
Yeah.
But it's like it was recorded this morning. It feels like that. And they created the composition, but the structure of it, and I would say this is something maybe similar to Kind of Blue, in that you go into the studio with a great group of players, a fantastic rhythm section, horn players that both contrast each other, but also are amazing. Obviously, this is maybe even a greater, like, it's a quartet.
Yeah.
They've done a bunch of playing together, locked in.
Yeah.
But then
for a couple years now.
Right. And then you have a very basic template for what the composition is going to be. In this case, Acknowledgement, the first one, where it's basically just harmonically three things: E, F, and E flat, all half step apart, but the order of those. So it's like, oh, any kid could come up with that, right? And then the trust to give the group, and then just one, or just one melodic idea that's introduced into that. That's the composition, and then a lyric, of course, which is highly unusual for an instrumental jazz record. But like, that's it. And then they came up with that already.
Yeah.
It's like mind blown.
I know.
But I think that is maybe a similarity with Kind of Blue, in that you came like Flamenco Sketches is just the 5 chords,
But there's something about this record in particular where, and again, not to over compare it to Kind of Blue, 2 different albums, actually years and years apart too, by the way. Let's not forget.
Which is better.
Well, we'll talk about that. But I think just the heavier subject matter of this, like, this was obviously a spiritual statement by Train. And like I said, I think it's a real cultural flag from Train too, of this entire era, actually, is like, we're going to play this music that is not really understandable by a huge chunk of people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's not like ring-a-ding-ding style, Sinatra tunes or whatever that some people around this time are playing, which is fine. Which is fine.
We need different things.
We need different things.
We need appetizers. We need main course. We need dessert.
But this kind of album takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of confidence, and it takes an incredible artistic vision.
I said it's bold and beautiful and courageous.
You've said it all. You've said it all.
So also, this is the thing. Well, yeah. And even like we talk about Kind of Blue, and I love like some of the comments of, kind of our analysis, which is overstating it, just talking about how impactful that record was to just general listeners. And they're saying, like, look at all the Mileses over the years that were born, babies named Miles, wink, wink, a romantic record, whatever. Like, this is not that kind of record.
No.
This is a beautiful record. I'm talking about Love Supreme.
Yeah.
This is not like a record that babies are going to be named after, necessarily. I don't think. Or even babies being made during this record, listening to this record. I don't know.
Maybe. It's not really about that, is it?
That should be one of our categories.
Yeah. No, but I mean, we're beating around the bush.
But that's
a little
what I'm
bit.
saying. Like, how do we even say is something great or not? Because those are two different. These are both records we need.
No, yeah,
for
of course.
different times.
Culture is about different things, but that's what I'm saying. We're beating around the bush, but this is really, we're talking about race here. Like, this album, Love Supreme, is not. White musicians are probably not able to make this album at this time. It's not culturally part of their DNA to do at this time, to do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this kind of such a powerful prayer, and such an incredible cultural flag from Train.
Yes.
Not to make too big a deal out of it, but I think that is a huge part of this album, and at that specific time, this incredible movement of musicians,
right,
led by Train.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, who's to say, whether or not John Coltrane was actively thinking about that or making that statement? That's kind of immaterial. He made that statement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He came with that authentic leadership to create this thing and to create this playground, this sandbox for these 4 musicians in the studio to create this, and obviously gave in a huge amount of license and space for all of these musicians to contribute. I mean, you can hear that from the very beginning. I mean, not to say that he might have said, why don't we start with the gong? Who knows? It doesn't matter. Like, the humanity of everybody's contribution is so like intermingled and integral to what was created. And it's part of the exciting thing of listening to something like this is to kind of imagine. And like, sometimes I feel like we have too much information when somebody says, I created this because this, and I want it to be this. That's of course interesting. But when you get to the level of a record like A Love Supreme, like that's up for you to get your not even your interpretation, like your meaning, like from when you like and what you come up with it, and me forget that, for everybody to get that. That's what a great piece of art is. It's not supposed to be reading the little thing that tells you what you're supposed to feel. It's like, what do you feel from this? And if nothing else, this record, and I think all great records, makes you feel deeply. I mean, like, you listen to this record, if you sit down and listen to this. And this is not like, I like jazz, I don't like jazz, I like funky jazz, I like swingy, ring-a-dingy jazz. Doesn't matter. Like listen to this, you will feel more human after listening to this, I say. You will feel, you may not love it, you may not ever want to listen to it again, you may love it off the charts, you may be like, that was okay. I mean, look, it would be hard to like have this in a coffee house playing parts of it. Yeah. Parts of it will be perfect, but when they start, "Oh, Love Supreme," like if you're not in the right space for that and you haven't listened to what came before that, that might get in the way of your oat milk frappuccino.
So, okay, and again, this feels a little cheap, but Peter, playing, what do you got?
Well, I got 10.
I also have.
But I mean,
I also have 10.
Yeah, really.
Vibe, I have 10.
What about spirituality? What do you have? I have 11 because I really felt a spiritual vibe on this.
Vibe is a bit of spirituality for sure, and I have 10 for that.
I mean, yeah, the vibe is. I think that even if you didn't like the vibe of this record, it would still be 10 because it has like probably
it's all vibe,
the strongest.
Man. It's incredible.
So think about this: if you say. Tell a drummer, give me that poinciana groove. It's as much about give me that vibe, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're like, give me that give me that Love Supreme vibe on this. That says a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't see how it could be anything but 10.
Okay.
Which is what I have.
I love it.
How far down have you gone?
I mean, I'm pretty much done with my ratings, but I still want to listen to
Can
this
we listen
album.
to
So let's check out Resolution. This is the next track, and I'm actually going to back it up to the end of Acknowledgement because they do.
The transition.
The transition is killing. Ends with bass, Acknowledgement starts with bass, Resolution. That's the last chord of the first track. And then.
They just came in. Love it. I'm here for it.
So good, man.
Woo! This is one of the deepest grooves a drummer's ever played on a record that I've heard. This is like the OG backbeat right here. Wow, Train can really take it out well.
Amazing. you ever play this?
5 versus 1 is.
We used to play this in Willie Aiken's band. This is one of Willie's mainstays.
This is kind of the only tune on this album I feel like.
Yeah, it gets played a lot.
Like you can kind of.
You can call it a jam session. So good through here. Notice what Elvin does through here.
Swings.
Yeah.
Swings his ass off.
But he pulls it back a little bit.
Man, he's in control. Like the architecture of this album.
Come on.
Man, I'm telling you, this is shit grooves.
Was McCoy the youngest member of this band?
Rooted Toot Toot. What'd you say?
Yeah, McCoy was the youngest member of this.
He's descending dominance. Is that part of the changes? We don't know. We love it.
He's only 26 here, McCoy.
Damn. I mean, how much has this been stolen? By me.
Our new stank face-o-meter is going to be off the charts.
God. We need a groove-o-meter. Bang, bang. Just a clinic in left-hand comping. Man, he's like just flirting to the way he's that combined with Elvin's like dancing on that ride cymbal, that sound of that zildjian. Floating, but the groove is still there. And this is all kind of burnout playing just over E flat. I mean, it's still playing the form, but harmonically they go wherever they want.
And for all you pianists out there, notice how McCoy really switches up textures, chords, single note lines. Yeah. Like he's not just doing the same thing again and again and again.
Right. Train comes in interrupting in all the right ways. I mean, Elvin is on the verge of being like, So you could dance, and it'd be like this is like church music, like you said. Like you get up and do church dance in the middle of this.
Hey.
Man, their approach to harmony is so fluid and courageous and exploratory and just fun, you know? I wonder if Brian Blade ever got a chance to hear this period of Elvin Jones.
All that stuff, man. Everything. Any pianist listening, if you want to learn how to comp for this kind of like chordal playing, how to solo, McCoy Tyner on these records.
Yeah.
Love Supreme, Crescent, and then of course like all of his records from this time, which I think were on Impulse as well. Were they? McCoy was on Impulse during this period too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So good for this. Reaching fourths.
But I think right around here he did a Bruno Real McCoy.
65, yeah.
Yeah.
67 maybe.
Reaching up. Woo!
Yeah, Real McCoy 67, a couple years later.
I don't think Coltrane had to be like, head out, guys. He just just rolled right up into it.
No, he didn't.
There's so many. Take it. Oh, the way this ends is so blues, just blues. Man, just the confidence of like ending. Oh, Garrison. Man, I mean, it's like it's really collective improvisation. It like really goes back to the beginnings of jazz, blues, like the roots, the origins. There's like a primal connection to the ancestors. You can feel
100%,
just a visceral. But I mean, like it's such a seamless and organic way to connect blues and playing out and modal and like fourth stuff. And like very advanced, and even like some rock and stuff in there.
Run through the prism of the mid 1960s.
Yeah,
and everything that was happening culturally and about to happen. You could feel these tensions here in this album all through it. And
it's almost like some Jimi Hendrix in there.
For sure. You know. And then run through the prism of John Coltrane, obviously like coming out of a spiritual awakening period. You know what I mean? And wanting to make something. Recognizing that, and this is what happens like when a genius figures this stuff out.
Yes,
we get Love Supreme.
Man, it's a masterpiece. I mean, it is like a genius that like is like handing the world a piece of art.
And then what's great about it too, as a human being that gets handed that work of art, it's like the more seasoned you get, the more life you live, the more of your down the sort of spiritual path or whatever it is that you. Whatever journey you're on, maybe it's hedonistic, whatever, no judgment. But
there's hedonism in the. I mean, like the way the way they're playing is
it's
like,
all part of it.
Oh man,
it's everything. And but listening now to it today, Peter, with you and with Caleb here too, is like even deeper for me than it was when I was in my 20s, smoking cigarettes and thinking about the individual I wanted to become. And now it's like. This is directing me, pointing me even further past those sort of like, you know, fairly small expectations that we put on ourselves when we're younger.
Man, it's just, and to think that like this really, like thank you for those words. And, you know, the way I'm feeling about it is it's that same deep connection. But yes, I think great art elevates us at any point we are in our life.
Yeah.
And like connects us in a way. And I think that, my realization upon this listening today, it's like this is such a collective thing. Yes, it's a John Coltrane record, and it's his vision. But I'm just reminded of like these subtle connections. Like had they not had that, I mean, they're all amazing musicians.
Yeah,
individually. You can hear them on different records. I mean, that's obviously they're you know masters of their instruments technically and virtuosos and all that. But also they're all individually very innovative. But they come together. On a level of innovation that's kind of off the charts on this with like that collective improvisation. And I think, it's like the serendipity of them coming together on this day and everything, or is it like what everything led up to this and beyond, you know, who's to say, but it's truly a masterpiece.
With that said, the sound is an 8 for me.
Wait, did we do compositions?
We haven't done, compositions are a 10. And you might be thinking, well, there's not much to these compositions, but try to write a melody like that last melody. Like try to write something as simple.
We'll be doing that in the next episode.
And we will probably not get anywhere close to how brilliant the melodies on this are and the idea too. Like this is one of those pieces of art where it's like if like my son, he went to some, where did he go? We went to some contemporary art. No, my daughter went to the Contemporary Art Museum. And then some of the stuff she was like, well, I could have done that. And it's like, you know, the first thing my wife always says, which is I love, is she's like, yeah, well, you didn't think to do that, did you?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. You could say, well, like, well, there's one chord, I could do that. It's like, well, you didn't do it.
Right.
You didn't do it in this way with this kind of sound.
Of course.
And that's
you guys are great parents, man.
Thank you.
Congrats.
It's true. That's where the art is. That's where the artist lives, is what is happening before what's about to happen, and where does the artist comment on that? And this is part of that comment. So compositions, I have a 10.
Well, and I would say, you know, to your last point too, also the simpler the art is, in this case, the compositions, as they should be when they're great, it's the execution of them.
Yeah.
And that's why I struggle a little bit. I'm still going compositions 9.
Oh.
He said, "Oh, okay. We've got a little drama in only because unless we're going to include the collective improvisation, the collective contributions of all of the musicians as part of the compositions, which there's an argument for that. I'm kind of making that argument. In that case, I would go 10. But if you just say the compositions, they're amazing. But what really makes this album great in terms of, and I think super innovative, and it's really built upon the foundation of the innovation of jazz in general since the beginning of it. I think what makes it such a wonderful thing is the collective improvisation becomes a part of the compositions. So it's not just the execution of what's there on the paper. It's like, what is it going to become?
And this is a fair debate because you could make the argument that no, a composition needs to be able, I think a composer's composer would probably say, well, it depends really, but I think some composers would say, no, a composition is something that gets put down and should be able to be made good by anybody.
Right.
However, I think you could also make an argument, and I would make the argument for this album, a great composition is something that's written for the act of, in this case, making a record with specific musicians. And I think John Coltrane 10 out of 10'd it as far as like, what are the sketches that I could give McCoy and Jimmy and Elvin?
The framework.
The framework.
To make a great piece of art.
Similarly, again, back to KOB, similar to Miles with that album. And what are the things that I can let loose on these incredible musicians that they will take and elevate? And
kind of like, it's like the end result is what's being kept in mind. It's like, what is the art? Is the art the compositions on the page? Or is the final piece of art the album?
Could these guys play some kind of intricate Brecker Brothers, some skunk funk kind of thing? Probably. Would it be, in this case, as impactful or not as even as impactful, but would it achieve the results that A Love Supreme does as far as its sort of prayer to God aspect?
Right.
No.
Right.
And this framework does do that. And it holds, again, those cultural things that I think Train is planting in the ground. The one chord collective improvisation, which is something that is blues.
Yeah.
Like these things that are the roots of the music.
Right.
Doesn't happen in other contexts.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to stand by my 9 then because of that. And so.
Okay, that's on you.
Yeah.
Okay. So for sound, I have 8 because of the Van Gelder piano. That's really it.
I have 9 because it's like, I love the way this record sounds. Yes, I'm not crazy about that sound, but upon listening to it,
I know it is.
It's
really
not
good.
Distracting. It just is what it is. It's not.
I usually don't mind it.
Like there's so many worse piano sounds.
I know. There really are. You're right.
It's not like everything's killing, but I mean, and the drum sound is so great.
Yeah, you're right.
Like
I'm going 9.
And the train,
I've noticed something, Peter. Every single one of these things we made, there's at least one category where you talk me up.
Right. And then same for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm almost going composite. I'm like, because going back to, I'm going 10 on the composition. No, because now I'm thinking about like, there's nothing for this record.
Yeah.
And that's what we're judging. We're saying what makes it out. There's nothing that could have been better about the comp. It's not like, they're good, but if only
would have done more,
Yeah. And because this is a jazz record, the collective improvisation that comes out of that framework that is the composition is part of the composition.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point of the thing. And that's a part of the music. It always has been.
Let's check out the first track on side B, Pursuance, side 2. Yeah, the drums sound incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the drums is pretty extraordinary. What he's playing and how they sound. I mean, it's like.
Dude, how incredible would it be to see this band live? It would have been.
Well, there's a live record. There's a live recording of them playing this.
But I mean, to be in a room with these 4 people in a small club would have been unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, I got a chance to hear. I know you heard McCoy live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, got a chance many times to hear him, and Elvin quite a few times. Jimmy Garrison never trained, never.
Me neither.
Passed before I was born. Oh! Man, the way they slide in there. This is the way to start the second side of an album, too. Of course, melodically, the melody, the theme of this, of Pursuance.
This piano solo.
Oh, it's incredible. Very connected with part one, the acknowledgement, melodically. This is when McCoy got into full mastery of his McCoy shit.
He really has his McCoy shit down.
He's better than everybody.
At the McCoy shit.
Man, his, yeah, of course. Like stuff like his rhythmic concept, such a big part of like his influence. Chick Corea, very influenced by McCoy Tyner. Man, McCoy's like the architecture of his solo, the way the melody and harmony and rhythm, like the way he thinks about all those things is so interesting, man. Like you can almost feel him thinking as he's going by what he played, you know, the development of it, the journey. Woo!
And again, change up pitches all over the place. It's not just like these.
No, right. Right.
Yeah, it's not all that.
And this is a deeply funky record. Like the way they're playing is very like.
I just wish. Left hand is so loud because of the EQ on the piano.
And then Mike's shoved in the F hole.
Right in the middle.
I mean, it's a very clear sound. It's very focused and clear.
Elvin.
Yet thin. I know, but Elvin is fat ass sound. Woo! Eighth note execution. Ever heard of it?
Tag.
Oh. The expansion, the opening. Space. We're going to the moon in a couple years. You better get ready. They're already there. JFK said it's going to happen before the end of the decade. Woo! Coming in, man. Coming at the apex. Train's one of the only ones that can really pull that off. And then stay there. Oh. Woo-hoo. Man, Train was deeply rhythmic too with his lines. A lot of times we think because he would go out of time, but when he's in time, man, he is like.
I mean,
Michael Brecker's super influenced, obviously, by he had that thing. You can feel it from Train. Joshua Redman.
Yeah, I remember
every saxophone player actually.
I think it was. I'm going to paraphrase, but I think it was. Great tenor saxophonist Seamus Blake. You know Seamus?
Yeah.
I think I heard him say once, like, there's a kind of a period every young tenor player goes through where they just try to, or a lot of young tenor players, where they emulate Train exclusively, and then there's a period of your growth where you have to let go. It's never going to happen.
I'm not worthy.
I can't do it.
Well, no, I can see that. I can totally see that.
I mean, it's the same thing.
To find who you are,
yeah,
it's like you have to.
Same thing, I think, for us with like McCoy and Herbie and.
Yeah, his rhythmic attenuation is like creepy great. And then that's what I'm saying. He so seamlessly goes out of time. Man, this is just like it's like a hurricane, but it's not killing you, it's lifting you up. I want to go to a coffee shop that plays this.
It's just
and then just like fall apart right on time. Break it down.
You know what strikes me listening to this today is like having made a bunch of records and having had more experience making music and having a career. Like, this album is earned through many, many years of work as an artist and as a band. To be this pure with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's not just youthful fire. This is like earned over a process of like Giant Steps is youthful fire.
Right.
That's youthful fire, right? This is like some wisdom of what to cut out.
Yeah.
Which only happens with a lot of experience.
Yeah, this
is a artist who's cut through a lot of bullshit to find this, you know.
Yeah, the bullshit-o-meter is zero on this record. Then harkening back to that, really the theme of the record.
Let's not make that a category ever.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's just one we throw in. But you know. And it sets it up where Jimmy Garrison can stretch out and create something like this. Like you want, it's like the calm in between the beautiful storm. It's a story, man.
The way that Train uses these bass interludes as orchestration
and the way we're talking over this bass solo is just so great.
We're gonna get comments about that for sure. But just to point out that like those blistering high highs are only so high because we get plenty of these.
Right. That's what I mean. It's a story. It's like if everything is great, everything is great on this. But if everything is here and then
if it's all just here, then it's all just mid, right? But because we get these
the dynamic range on this record, the emotional and spiritual dynamic range, which is crazy because it's like harmonically, it's very
But listen to what he's doing harmonically.
Three bass players. There's many, many more, but three that jump out: Reuben Rogers, Chris Thomas, and Reginald Veal. Deeply influenced by this, and having played with open solos. You know, Jimmy Garrison's the McCoy Tyner of bassists. Christian McBride too. I mean, the Ray Brown influence is much more recognizable, but a deep connection with this type of playing as well. Christian is. Ooh.
So, Peter, we're about to transition in, and we should roll right into part 4, which is the psalm. Interesting note for people. No, let's let it roll right in, and we'll talk after the psalm.
Let a rich roll on it.
But if you have the original liner notes, or you could look this up too, the psalm is a text that Train actually wrote, and he improvises using the text.
Right.
So you can, I've done this many times, you can sing with him.
Right.
As he's, you can read the text and hear what he's playing.
Each syllable is one note.
And he's such a master phraser that it's actually very obvious. It sounds like an orator speaking.
Yeah. Thankfully, we will not be doing that live today.
No.
Do it
thankfully,
in here.
something to note too about Psalm is the whole thing is this free, open, rubato flowing thing.
Yeah.
Hallmark of this band. Maybe the greatest ever at this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over Crescent as well.
Right. And they weren't the first to do it, but they were the ones that like kind of
the rumbling, flowing rubato is unparalleled.
Elvin's mallet work, I mean, so influential, so beautiful, so compositionally appropriate. I love when Train, obviously his playing is always lyrical. Specifically here, it's specifically lyrical. But his tone, like when he's, his control with the vibrato, he's not a heavy vibrato player, but he uses some and goes in and out of it. You get to hear that and how that affects the lyricism, man. He's such a master of that. Scoops up and playing out those major and minor sevens back and forth up and down. I think he knew the melodic ascending and descending.
And the whole thing is a setup, as we'll hear in a minute, for maybe one of the greatest payoff chords in all of music.
Yeah. The whole record kind of.
The whole record is a setup for one chord.
Yeah. Yeah, I could argue. I mean, I would have no argument with anyone having different scores on everything on here except sequence.
Sequence is perfect.
I will battle you with weapons if you think it's lower than a 10.
Couldn't
playing? Maybe it's not your kid. Well, yeah, it's just
no. Sequence is
perfection. It's perfect. Timpani. He's got those toms and fourths. Oh, that actually is a timpani. I never knew that. Did you know that?
It was a timpani? Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was his toms.
No.
I was like, wow, he's got it in perfect chorus.
It sounds dope, too.
Yeah. Leading tone.
Yeah, I encourage you to read this text as you listen to this, listener. You have it. Many themes being called back. Gorgeous.
Whew. How did I not know that was a timpani? I'm an idiot. Is that listed on the album?
Idiot.
It's obviously a timpani. Full circle, baby. Full circle.
Unbelievable.
Oh, that roll.
Yeah, the last chord, the last roll.
I mean, it's a
Man, such a good payoff.
yeah, and just spontaneously created. That's the amazing thing about that. Like all the it's weird to call something perfect, but this is a perfect record in that anything that was okay, maybe not the way the piano was recorded. I'm saying the what the music on it, the journey, what we just heard.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that was spontaneously created. Like you can just feel the commitment everybody had to the moment to create. Like it's a very humble record.
Yeah.
But it's very masterful at the same time. So it's so service oriented. It's just like, I'm going to be the vessel. And there's 4 movements. There's 1 experience. We're going to lay it all on the line. It's not like, oh, I didn't like the way it sounded. Can I overdub my part?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Stupid shit that I've done in the studio before. Let me go fix my feet.
No.
I mean, that was like the timpani like all the little subtleties. They're so natural and purposeful, but humble.
Yep.
And it just creates something that I don't know how you could say like, it was really good, but there's a couple places I would have, like the way they play in that last movement, it's very difficult to maintain. Like it's very simple in a way because it's just playing over one sort of harmonic area. So you have a lot of it's almost like you can't mess it up.
Yeah.
But to be able to maintain the intent, the musical intensity.
You really could mess it up.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could mess it up.
Well, no. I mean, just no one needs to cover this record. You know what I mean?
No.
Although it's been done. I mean, and that's interesting. I guess it's like.
Oh yeah, didn't vocalist covered it? Like wrote words to all the solos. I think.
Yeah,
was it Kurt Elling maybe?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, but I just don't think it's.
I could be wrong about that.
It's a difficult. Like it's a moment.
Yeah.
It is a moment, and all the things like we mentioned that bring you back to like you feeling like you're in the studio. Especially if you listen to this record, you sit and listen. If you take the time to sit and listen for this, whatever, 30, it's not that long of a record, 32, 33 minutes or something, the 2 sides.
Yeah.
But it feels like you're on this, it's like an epic journey.
We've just been on a journey. Yeah.
We just went around the world and saw every human, you know what I mean? And the human experience. So it's really.
So let's finish our list here, Peter, and go back to something a little.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My heart's beating.
No, man. Well, this is so, first of all, I just want to.
I forgot how much I love this record.
Well, I was going to say, I hear you talk about Crescent all the time.
Yeah.
I don't hear you talk about Love.
That sucks. This is great. No, this is better. I mean, it's not better. It's more important.
I'm just hyped on it that you are appreciating
full disclosure,
it so
we
much.
were talking before. I was like, did I even say this is not my favorite Train record?
You said this is
no,
not
I
my
said
favorite.
I'm not sure if this is even my favorite.
I'm not
Train
sure if
record.
that's even my favorite. That's what you said.
I'm still not sure, but I think this is one of the most important records ever made.
Folks, you heard it here first.
I don't know what that means.
I love it so much.
Doesn't matter what I think.
I love it, man. No, I agree. I agree with you.
I just think the fact that like it's not something that can be played in a coffee shop. You know what? There is a jazz coffee shop this could be played in. I've been to a couple places in Japan.
Okay.
And I wish I remembered the one name. It's probably closed now. I went there like 25 years ago when I first went to Japan. And it was like, this is a jazz coffee shop. I was like, this is before like Starbucks was selling Nora Jones albums and stuff like, not that kind of coffee shop.
Yeah.
This was a coffee shop. And when you get in there, there's just a bunch of albums. There's this incredible hi-fi system, like a Marantz, amplifier and a separate. And there's just a couple people sitting there with a cup of coffee, like solitary, and this incredible music playing loud AF.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like you go there and sit, and then you listen to a whole album, and then you can choose the next one.
Oh, that's
and then maybe the
beautiful.
next person. It's just like a place, and like you're in Tokyo, but you feel like you could be anywhere in the world, like in this little, no windows or anything.
You know how many
That's
places?
a jazz. This could be played in that jazz coffee
Here's
shop.
why Tokyo rules, because there's so many places like that in Tokyo where it's
Yeah.
just like you feel like you're in Tokyo, but you feel like you're in a different world. There's
Right.
so many.
And it was like $10 at the time, 20 years ago,
Oh, come on.
which would be like $20 now to get a cup of coffee, which was great because that filters out anyone that's just coming for the coffee.
We should mention if
you're coming to listen to a great album all the way through for $10, that's a good deal.
If you're a jazz fan, Tokyo is not a bad spot to go as a tourist because there's a lot of great music happening all over that city, from visiting artists, obviously, but also locals that can play.
It's one of the top
record stores, cafes, as you mentioned, venues. Shout out Tokyo. Okay, let's finish our
sequence. We got
cover art. I have a 10 because I love. I don't know if we can put the picture up, but I love the expression on Trane's face. I love the composition of the photo, and then the fact too that they published the text that Trane was improvising, was speaking through his horn on the part 4. It
doesn't actually have anything to do with the cover art, but gotcha.
Yeah, but that's part of it for me. I love the font. I love the / John Coltrane. The entire thing.
I even like that little white in the left-hand corner.
That's kind of cut off a little bit.
It's kind of like right.
Oh yeah. That's maybe someone's shoulder or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing is
paparazzi, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's just beautiful, though. It's a beautiful shot. It's a beautiful profile. The negative space that they use around Trane's head, like it's not just all Trane's head.
I believe this was photographed by Bob Thiel. Why do I not know? Is that his name? The producer? I believe he took this picture as well at the studio.
Cool.
I can't find it now, but I believe that's the case. I give it a 9 because I think it's really, really good, but it's not the greatest album cover ever.
I'm going 10. Title, I'm going 10 because The Love Supreme is a beautiful title for an album.
10.
That's 10 out of 10.
You're not going to argue me on the cover art?
No, I had 9 here for a while, but the more I look at it, the more I like it.
Yeah.
Lore, I have a 10.
I have a 10 too.
Yeah, because of the cultural impact of the album, because of all the things we've already mentioned, about these 4 young musicians planting this cultural flag, giving us an idea of what music could do in a way that is unapologetic to their place and time is a 10 out of 10.
And then the after lore in terms of like, Jimi Hendrix, Carlos Santana, all the people that are like outside of jazz that were like, this is the greatest, we pray to this album.
The fact that what we just heard, this Love Letter to God from a Genius, has gone platinum. Right. That's incredible if you think about it.
Doppio platinum, perhaps?
Maybe, but it's sold over 1 million copies, which is unbelievable and is a real testament to the attraction.
I mean, there's other great desert
you make good music. People like good music.
Right. And of course, this is on many desert island lists in terms of if you were stuck. But if you think about most people, when they're just talking about, these are the greatest albums, the desert island albums. But if you actually think about being stuck on a desert island with one record, this might be the one to have because it's got the music. It's got the spiritual connection, the prayer element of it. It's got the connection with humanity, which you certainly would need if you're stuck on an island.
Fireworks.
Right. It's not really beach music. It's not like Jimmy Buffett, but that's the only thing it doesn't have, I guess.
Okay, so now our next category, we are changing. It has been Snobometer, where we pit Aunt Linda, your aunt that doesn't know anything about jazz, with Ethan Iverson, your prototypical.
Why are you still talking about that? We're not
even doing it anymore.
Yeah.
We are now changing it
Shout out Ethan and Linda.
Yeah. Based on a user request to the Stank Face-O-Meter. And that's really gives us an idea of how much stank face this album has elicited. I have a 10 out of 10 stank face. We were
Question
stank
for
face.
You, Adam.
Yeah.
When you were smoking the Marlboro Reds, listening to Love Supreme when you're in your early 20s, dreaming of being a jazz musician, did you ever think you would be on a podcast with another St. Louis pianist using the word stank face-o-meter?
Dude, if you would have told me that I would have been sitting next to Peter Martin listening to this in front of an audience talking about stank face, first of all, I would have been like, what's a podcast? But no, I have no clue. It's crazy. It's crazy how life twists and turns.
Face-o-meter. So now, is this stank face-o-meter like how much we go woo, or is it woo? Is a woo the same as stank face? I think it's a little different.
It's a little different, but it's in the same ballpark.
Yeah, same ballpark.
Yeah,
I give it a 10.
Me too.
Because I'm in constant stank face on this record.
Constant stank face. Is it better than KOB?
Oh.
KOB, of course, Kinda Blue is a 9 that we have here. I have it as a 9.5. I think it's slightly
We
better.
don't have the... Okay.
You've done a 0.5 before?
Have I?
Yeah.
Okay, that was bad. Could we change this just for this one to, is it more important than KOB? Is it more impactful than KOB? Is it better than? That's such a harsh...
Do we like
How
it
can
better?
Something spiritual... It's like, is one religion better than another? To that person that's part of it, yeah, probably.
Well, no, it's not the same. Is it? Do we like it
but
better than KOB?
But because this is such a is it a more spiritual album than KOB?
That's not the question.
I know, but what does better mean? No, do we like it?
Do we like it more than KOB?
What do you mean? Do you like Secrets better than KOB?
No.
Well, up until recently you did.
Yeah, but people change.
Okay. I'm going 9.
I have 9.5.
So 9 means it's exactly
in line. And I had 9 at first.
To me,
too.
They're both perfect records.
They are perfect. You know what? You've convinced. I'm going down.
No,
I'm going down to 9. Okay, no. All right, let's add up.
Okay.
Favorite track. That feels. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Favorite track. That feels kind of weird on this. Rooty toot toot. Rooty toot toot.
What? What's what are you talking about, dude?
What's the Vegas one you were saying?
Ring-a-ding ding.
Ring-a-ding. I said rooty toot toot.
Why would you bring that up? Okay.
Well, no, that just seems kind of like what track you like the best. I love it when he goes.
Yeah, that's what Dean and Sinatra were doing. Rooty toot toot. What are you talking about?
That was later on, after the show.
It was in the 70s. Okay, so the total score, I have a 98 favorite track resolution.
Oh, that's what I just wrote. Resolution. Total score, you had 98?
Yeah.
Damn it. I love this record as much as you. Actually, this is good. I have 97.
Yeah, I think this is appropriate.
From what we talked about before, would kind of be.
This is in my top 3. I don't think this is in your top 3. So yeah.
I mean,
all time.
But after hearing this again, I couldn't see not having it in there.
Folks, we've converted Peter back to Love Supreme. If anything, that's what this episode has done. Thank you, everybody, for getting it this far.
The ultimate question, though, which will probably be part of the title of this, is this better than KOB? You said yes, slightly.
I said, no, I said 9. I think it's right in line.
You said 9.5.
No, I changed it.
Oh, you did change it. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's undramatic.
So no, so yes and no.
Snow.
Till next time.
You'll hear it.
How was my mic placement, Caleb? Is this too close?